Welcome to the Leadership Spark podcast, where we equip you to be the great leader your people deserve. This is Corey, and today we're going to wrap up a focus that we've had over the last few days on how do you make the most of the month of December. And we've talked about a lot of different ways that you can use December as an opportunity to move things forward, to either get you in a position to be successful or remove obstacles or bottlenecks or clutter that may prevent success as you move into the new year. And so today, what I want to talk about as we close this out is this idea of strategic pausing, using December to strategically pause as a leader, and talk about why smart leaders can use December to slow down and why that is important. And so I'll say this: reflection, spending time reflecting is very important as a leader. We have to be able to carve out time to be able to reflect so that we can make the decisions that we need to make. And we can distance ourselves sometimes from either the chaos, the clutter, the emotion, whatever that may be. But reflection is performance science. It is not fluff. And so don't think that, the Leadership Spark podcast are encouraging me to pause and to reflect, and it feels very soft. It is not soft. It is performance science. The brain needs space to integrate what you're learning. We need to be able to connect those dots in a coherent way to be able to perform at a high level. And pausing is how we can prevent things like burnout or bad decisions. And so it's very strategic that we pause as leaders. And so why does reflection? And we'll talk a little bit about reflection and what that looks like. And I'm going to give you some questions to ask. But reflection does a few things for us as leaders. And I want to communicate these so that you get the why behind reflection. And you buy into the fact that it really matters and it can impact your ability to lead. Reflection sharpens your intuition and judgment. You pattern match faster whenever you reflect, and that's very important for a leader to be able to do. You make fewer emotional decisions whenever you reflect, and you take time to really process. You shift from being reactive to being intentional as a leader. The neuroscience behind it says that resting the mind increases cognitive flexibility. You become smarter. You become more agile when you reflect. And so hopefully that convinces you a little bit that reflection is something that you can do in the month of December to really maximize the time that you have before the end of the year. And so here are 5 questions I want to give you that you can use whenever you reflect to be able to stimulate the reflection time that you can carve out. One is this: what energized me this year? What were the things that happened? What was the type of work that I did that energized me this year? Or what consistently drained me this year? What did I learn about the type of work that actually takes life out of me instead of breathing life into me? It's very important for us to understand those strengths and those weaknesses in that context. Where did I lead at my best? That's a great question. Reflect on that. Where did I lead at my best? Where was I at my best as a leader? What was the context? What was the circumstance? How did I feel? What was I doing? Who was I doing it with? Those are very important questions to ask. What systems or patterns held me back in this previous year? What systems or patterns held me back? I want to think about those and identify the opportunities potentially to remove an obstacle or a bottleneck. And then, what emotional state do I want to lead from next year? Go ahead and define that. And we're going to spend the next several days talking about how do you start the year strong. But what do you want your emotional state to be? What emotional state do you want to lead from? And I want to encourage you to ask yourself those questions and write something down as you spend time reflecting. And so those are things that you can do. You can journal those in a micro way. You can take short walks with headphones on as you start to mentally decompress and think about it. You can take a 10-minute reset ritual between meetings and schedule that in for a time to reflect. And these are really about how do you build practices in to pause as you go throughout just leading in general. You can weekly reflect on things like, what was a win this week? What was a challenge this week? What was one insight that I learned? These are all ideas, hopefully, that will stimulate you thinking of how you can make not just pausing in December strategically to reflect something that you do, but something that you build into a habit or a practice in your leadership rituals. And so leaders who pause lead better. Leaders who pause lead better. Stillness creates clarity. And so use this December to be able to stop, be still, and reflect. It will make you a better leader right now as you do it, but also as you prepare and hopefully build this into your practice going into the next year.